Your world is a mirror of who you are and what you think internally. How much do you actually believe this? Because I think it is extremely important to believe this. Let's bring an example of people that we've talked to who happens to always get into trouble. They're always telling you stories and they're always getting into some random trouble, and they say, even to a certain extent, trouble finds me. I don't think that is the case. I think they find trouble, right? And the reason why I say this is because when you believe something internally, your body leads you towards that. So in this case, he's being led towards trouble. The same way that some people believe they are the best in the world, the greatest in the world, they also happen to be in the positions to be the greatest in the world. Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the most egotistical players ever, of all time, this is what people believe, happens to also be one of the greatest players of all time. See how these two things correlate? Everybody who is the best player in the world also believes that they are the best player. So sometimes all it does take is to believe your reality, and understanding that what you believe is what becomes your reality, because that's what your body leads you to. The same way that a lot of people believe they are always toxic or they're unlovable, always get into relationships that are toxic or that are horrible for them. But when you believe you are a lovable person, and a lot of the time it takes time for your reality to warp around that belief, which is an extremely important point that I have to make to you in this context. You can't automatically turn your belief 180 degrees down around just for your reality to turn at the same time. Sometimes it's going to take life to catch up to your belief, especially as you are continuously changing it. Especially if you're turning it around 180 degrees, the exact opposite from going from unlovable to lovable, right? But with time, your reality starts to warp around that belief, and I promise you that world will change. And it's not just the fact that you start believing something, it's about how your perspective changes as well. You start to see the love in the world, the good things in the world, when you start thinking positive things, right? When you start to believe about love and how lovable you are, you start to see the tiny things that people do for you in acts of love, and therefore you start to see it more. Sometimes all it takes is that perspective change, right, for you to understand that the thing that you're wishing for, you've always had.